Kayla Lojas, aka Kaylofit. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love doing podcasts. Obviously, we met in the gym a while ago, and we had a good vibe. And when you asked, I was like, why not?
Yeah. You have awesome content. And like the thing that stands out to me about you is you're just authentically yourself, like hilarious. But you have like passions about fitness and cars and business that you just blend together in a fun way. So it's cool to see your journey and just like, hey, this is achievable for people. Like you don't have to be like everybody else and I'm only going this one track and I have to be serious. It's like, have fun with it. I think you're a great embodiment of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think life can be taken way too seriously, and also kind of coming from where I came from and not having much and then being able to achieve what I've achieved, I'm like, so if I can do it, right, anyone should be able to do it. And I feel like going along a journey, it's so hard when you don't have someone to motivate you and push you, whether that's family, friends, a mentor. So if I can be that for anyone, then that would change the world for me if I was in that position and had someone to help me and just kind of chip random things in the back of my head on social media or whatever the case may be. So that's why I kind of lean into that position as much as I possibly can to make it just fun, free-flowing, and it's all possible. It's all possible.
I love that. So today when people see you, you're running your own business. You work with brands like Ghost and YoungLA. You used to do bodybuilding shows, like a lot of just crazy things that people see on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Going back, you played soccer in college, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so those days, did you ever think that you were going to get into being a creator, into fitness, or was it just like, I'm going to play a sport, I don't know what comes next?
Yeah, I genuinely had no clue. The funny thing is there was a random moment in my life where I said, I'm going to be known someday. I said this to my mom. I was like, I'm going to be known someday, but I don't know for what. So that could have been anything, like literally anything. Could have been just known in a school, known in a college, known at a university, like that could have been that. So it was just very broad statement. And here I am today being an actual role that is someone that is known. And in college, I studied athletic training. So I got my degree in that, and I got my personal training certification on the side while I was in school. And so I saw myself going through that, going to get my doctorate in physical therapy, and like owning an office and having my own space and, making six figures, like as a physical therapist. And I thought that was the end goal. And I think the idea of the money that could be made as a physical therapist, but also not understanding how many years it takes off your life and how much it costs to get to that part is something that I never really fully grasped. And, after college, I kind of went through a phase of where you lose your identity as an athlete and you're like, well, nobody teaches me how to do this. There's no class on this. There's no course. This is what you do once your coach stops, yelling at you and telling you what to do, right? No one tells you to get on the line anymore. No one forces you to go in the gym. You have to figure out yourself. And so once that chunk of my life was kind of gone, I did have this fascination with social media, but it was in a sense of it was around sneakers, and it was around like a whole different, if you dig really deep, like really deep, I was actually Kayla Sneaks before I was Kaylofit. So I had that idea there. I just didn't know how to do it. And I also think the pressures of being in college and being around people who maybe didn't understand social media like I was trying to, it made me uncomfortable, and it made me kind of like push that part that I maybe wanted to dive into just down. Mm-hmm. And once college ended, I went through a lot in a very short time frame between losing someone in my life, between getting out of a 6-year relationship that I was about to be engaged into, to not passing my boards. And so all of this happened in such a short time frame that I was like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next step is in my life. I feel like I'm back to nothing. I'm back home living with my mom. Like, what do I do? Terrified, really. And so I ended up taking my personal training certification, calling a local gym and being like, yo, like, this is what I have. Like, and it ended up being someone that went to the same college as me. So worlds kind of collided, and I ended up working as a personal trainer there. And that just kind of, there's so much to it, but that's what started that whole next journey for me, versus this being a doctorate and, physical therapist and having my own office, and life would be so different. Mm-hmm. I think if these things didn't happen and I went that path, I have no clue what that looks like. But yeah, that's just a start of, how I'm here today and kind of how I see it now and what I thought it would be versus what it is, you know?
Yeah. I could see you like having a client on the table, stretching them and like cracking jokes, and they'd be like, dude, just stretch my hamstring.
Literally.
Shut up.
Like, I'm just like the biggest goofball, and I just say what I feel, or I'm just like, I don't like to be, I mean, I like to be uncomfortable in a sense of growth, but not like if I'm in a room with people, I mean, I'm a Leo, like I'm gonna draw attention, right? And it's just natural. It's not like I want to. It's just I want to like, I want things to be lighthearted, fun, smiling, laughter. Like someone's got to do it, and I have the courage to do it. So I'm always going to be that person. And so, I mean, I loved those days working with athletes and creating relationships that you could with individuals in so many different sports. And whether they're the star athlete or they're just a freshman and they're just getting started, but they have a lot of potential. Like that was so cool to me to be hands-on. And so, you know, going from that to then going into personal training in person, I still carried that some. I still had that education and that background with my degree. So it made it easier, but it was still an environment that I felt like I was meant to be in. I was meant to talk to people. I was meant to just help people if they're struggling with something. Like I'm a motivator. I love to motivate, like off the rip. Like whether you listen to me or not, like I'm gonna give you advice, right? Even if you don't ask for it, I'm probably gonna give you advice and hope that you take it and do something with it. But that's just what I love to do. Like you know, someone asked me before, like, what would happen if you could never work out again? I was like, I would probably find a way to just motivate other people, like using my voice, because that's something that's so much fun to me. Like so many people call me to just, hey, I need your advice on this, or hey, what should I do? Like, I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, I got you. Like, even though maybe I've never experienced that, for some reason, I just love to figure it out and give advice. Like, it may not make sense to most people, but for some reason, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from, but it comes from somewhere.
Yeah, you're right. And I can attest to that. Literally the first day we met, I was just like, give me some advice. And you spent like 10 minutes. Like, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But just like, you're wanting to give back, like, hey, I have this experience and here's how I see things and here's how you can get better. So that's amazing, because not everybody's like that. It's kind of like people see success as a zero-sum game. Like, I can win, but you can't.
Right.
And if you get a follower, I can't get that follower. If you get this deal, I can't get that deal. So it's good to have people that want to see you win, but like, hey, here's also how you can win. Yeah,
because I mean, like I said previously, I wish that I had a lot of different things when I was coming up in my journey, and I won't like I'm had a lot, right? But I feel like there's so many missing puzzle pieces, and so if I could be that for someone else, why not? Like I'm walking around with this experience and, you know, growing in social media at a different time period. Why can't I just like let that flow and give someone else that advice and see what they do with it? And not everyone's going to take it, right? Not everyone's going to do something with it. But if I can put that out there and that person can take one tiny thing from it and then they can grow in a different way, that's a win on my part, right? Whether I see it happening or not, I put it out there and I hope that something is, you know, taken from it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you start training out of college, you start getting into content with sneakers, and that kind of is the catalyst for creating today and coaching today. Did you feel resistance in that time where you're doing something different than physical therapy, and maybe the doctorate's still in your mind? You're like, hey, maybe I go back to school, but I like where I'm going. I like what I'm stepping into. I see some potential. What was that? What was your mindset back then of, I'm going against what I thought I was always going to do?
Yeah, I think my dad was not very happy that I went to a private school that was 4 years and I was playing sports and it cost money, right? My dad was like, go get your associates and build a business, because that's what he did. And that's something that's common of our parents. They just want us to succeed. So they say, do what we did because we know it works. Well, what if I want to do something different? So I felt that pressure, I think, for a while. But as I started to work as a personal trainer, I actually moved up in positions pretty quickly. I don't know, when I'm in an environment, like I feel like I can connect. I could talk to a rock. I could have a conversation with a rock, right? Like I know how to blend into the situation that I'm in and I guess talk appropriately and move the way I need to. And that could sound, I guess, horrible in a way, but it's not like I have this negative part about it. It's just I know how to read a room. And so that has gotten me so many places in the business world. And I think that's what brought me so far in personal training so quickly. I mean, I ended up managing all the personal trainers within like, I want to say 6 months. Like it was very fast. So I moved up very quickly and was in a manager role. And so, you know, it's not like I was making $1 million, but I was making money. And coming out of college when you're broke and you have nothing, right? And now you got like money coming to your name and you're like, wow, like I can go eat food and right, I can just
maybe take a trip.
Yeah, I could buy some shoes, like, right? Like that's such a powerful feeling. And coming from, not having much and my parents being divorced when I was younger and just going through a lot, moving so much as a child, I didn't see these things as a possibility. So once I started getting a taste for it, I was like, wow, okay, I can't let off. Like there can't be a second that I let off because I don't want to go back that way. And I'm starting to see success. I'm starting to see, what I defined as success then, just money. Like that's it. Pure money, pure position, like a role. And so I just was like, I have to keep going. I cannot slow down for a minute. And that was, I guess, my biggest pressure more than anything. Once social media kind of started, and I started pushing that direction, I definitely got a lot of kickback then from my mom. So my dad was kind of not so much. He's like, whatever, you're making money, you're paying bills. I started getting kickback from my mom on kind of like, well, what's there to do with social media? Why are you taking so much time to do this? Why are you putting money into this and not here? And I, my biggest response to that was just watch. Like, we got in a lot of arguments and I was just like, I just need you to just trust me and watch, because what I'm doing is not traditional in any way for their time period, but I had so much belief in the fact that I could grow in it and that I wasn't going to slow down, that it would make me a lot of money. It would put me in a higher position to where I could support and help other people in my life. And I mean, sure enough, like a year and a half or two later, she could see my bank account and see the life I was living and was like, oh, wow, okay, so, wow, that's so cool, and all of a sudden she's like preaching me like, look at my daughter on social, so it's so funny. But I think that's very normal from a parent. It's hard when you're experiencing it as a kid because you're like, why don't they support me? Why don't they love me? Why don't they? But that's not the case. Yeah. They do support you. They do love you. They just don't understand what you're trying to do. And a huge line, it's from a song from the artist Mike. I don't know if you know who Mike is. Love Mike. It's "The vision is mine, so how can you see it?" Like that's so deep.
Yeah.
And when I heard that in a song, I literally like cried because I was like, whoa, like that's something I've been feeling for so long that no one can understand. And people will never understand that. And that's okay, because that is yours. Like that's what makes us so unique. And you're always gonna have kickback in life, but if you can see that vision and you're starting to understand what it's going to take to get that, keep going. Like the rest will follow. The right people will come. The people who believe in you will be there at the end, and those who aren't, like that's okay. They're not meant to be in that line and journey, and that vision doesn't make sense to them. Totally cool, right? So I kind of just went on a rant, I feel like, but yeah.
That was good. Yeah. And the whole thing about parents, I think they just don't understand, like you said, because creators weren't a thing when they were younger.
100%.
There was nobody on social media. Social media wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So it's tough to see like, okay, what is Instagram, but also how are you going to make money posting a picture, or a video, and like what is TikTok, and why are you doing these dances?
Yeah. My dad still doesn't understand it, I don't think. He sees the businesses and he's like, great, but I don't think he actually understands what comes from brands and building on socials. So it's just kind of funny, and it's almost refreshing when I talk to him about that stuff, because he's like, wow, cool. And I'm like, you have no clue what I'm saying. But I like that, it's refreshing.
Yeah. It seems like the creator space is growing every single year. And like soon it's just going to be one of the biggest industries in our country. Going back years ago when you started, what was it like then? Like, first off, how did you get the inspiration? Were there people in the space that you're like, I want what they have?
Yeah, I feel like in the beginning, I was all Instagram and YouTube. And I was seeing a decent growth on Instagram more than anything. YouTube, I was like filming everything on an iPhone. I don't even know what iPhone was out then. And I was editing everything on the iPhone too, which was wild. And I still use the same app that I do now today, which is so crazy to me. I'm so freaking good at it because I've been using it for so long. But that was where I started with everything. And Instagram took me pretty far. I wasn't sure how YouTube was going to work. And then TikTok came around, and I boycotted the heck out of that app. I was like, I'm not dancing. I'm not doing this. This doesn't make sense for me. Like, it obviously went from whatever it was before, Musical.ly or whatever, to TikTok. And that transition kept it so dance focused that it just was like, why would I go on there as a fitness creator? Like, I'm against it. You know, I think there's a large chunk of creators who are like, I'm never going on TikTok. That was a big mistake, I think, if I started sooner. You know, obviously I can't go back and say what if, but I think things would be different.
Yeah.
I started, I want to say the end of 2019, I think, going into 2020. And I was in the middle of a bodybuilding prep, which it's funny because I said I would never prep. I said I would never do bodybuilding. Sure enough, after a while building a muscle mass, you're like, well, I kind of want to see what it looks like, right? I think we all do that.
Yep.
We get as lean as we possibly can, whether we step on stage or not. And so I was just documenting that process while COVID was happening. So you have way more users, way more eyes who are sitting around doing nothing and they're watching. You also, you know, the dynamic of not having a gym but trying to prep. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. So, I mean, obviously the way things were going on in the world were different in every state. Georgia wasn't too bad. I had a lot of connections, so I was able to find gyms. But documenting that whole journey is what completely changed my life and completely changed my career. I was still working at a gym at that time. There's a whole nother company I was working for in the midst of all of that I actually kind of, I don't know how to explain it without going too in depth, but there was a mobile fitness company that I was a part of that brought me to Georgia originally from Illinois. And that company, I grew pretty quickly, but it wasn't making sense what I was doing versus the pay versus the workload. So instead, I never signed an NDA. I basically said I'm walking away. I opened up Authenfit, which is my coaching business, the next day and took every single clientele off the roster, right? So I played it really smart, and I still have that business till today, right? So that worked out in my favor, and that's what brought me to Georgia. That was still going on the side, but it wasn't generating as much revenue as I needed it to at the time. And so that's when I stepped back into a gym again. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a personal trainer. Again, went into a manager role where I was kind of doing both really quickly and recording my whole prep, my whole TikTok, everything at that time. And I ended up having a video of me. I was super shredded. I think I was like maybe a few weeks out, and I was just like doing my hair. Like it was like a get ready with me or something, or go do cardio with me. I don't even know what it was at this rate. And overnight, I posted it, I went to bed, I woke up. Overnight, I had over 1 million views. Wow. And my coaching application is linked in my bio at that time. I had over 200 applicants overnight.
Holy shit.
I sat there all day, got back to everyone, and I made a crap ton of money that day. I turned around and I quit everything.
Wow.
Quit it all and just fully jumped in and was like, that just happened so fast. That's kind of scary. Yeah, because maybe how do I replicate that? But also, that just showed me that this is possible. Like that gave me that spark of like, oh, you can jump full into this now. Like you're ready. So yeah, I quit everything and I jumped into that and, went through the rest of my prep. I actually lost, I won the first show, but lost the second show, which was a really big show for me. It was summer shredding. I always wanted to work with Alphalete. I was chasing that for so long and I ended up losing it. And I think that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because I needed to kind of wake up a little bit of like, hey, everything's not going to be easy and you're not going to be, not saying I was handed things, but it's not all just going to fall in your lap. Like you're going to have failures. At the time, I didn't see that, right? But now looking back, I'm like, oh, like you were supposed to lose that. You were supposed to come back with like this vengeance, like, going crazy. And I ended up falling into like really bad binge eating for a while and I gained, I think it was like over close to 20 pounds in like 4 days. Like it was very dangerous, very scary. And I started documenting all of that and sharing that with my audience because when I was going through bodybuilding, no one talked about that. It's more common now, but no one was sharing the dangerous things that can happen after if you're not reversing properly and you're not right. That's so different now than it used to be. So that hit a lot of different people and again, helped me to continue to grow. And I ended up jumping into an 11-week prep. And I mean, straight down to just cutting to the absolute lowest, doing so much cardio, came back and then won summer shredding that year in 2021. And then that again changed my whole life again. So it was like life changed, failure, life changed. And that's when I signed with Alphalete, Anaka. I mean, I was with Ghost prior to that. Like it was a crazy trajectory in 2021.
That's amazing. I like the point about social media, like that TikTok that blew up and you just get all that business because of it.
Crazy.
Like that sums up the power of social media right there. You can reach people beyond you can ever imagine. Yeah. Like working in a gym at that time, number one, you're limited to the people under the roof. Like whether there's 5 members that day or 500, like that's your number.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like if you're prepping and you're coaching in like t-shirt and leggings, people aren't seeing the abs and like the hamstring drop. Like they're just like, oh, it's just another coach.
Yep.
But like posts on TikTok and flexing and showing a workout, people are like, oh, like she's certified. So that brings in a whole different audience, but also you can show exactly what you want to show.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool for people like resisting going into social media because they don't know like what are people going to think or what is going to work out. Like even if you get 5 views, that's 5 people you wouldn't have reached beforehand.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was talking to someone before and they were like, hey, I post everything on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook, whatever, like every single platform. Like maybe I get 200 on each, but like if I just did Instagram, that's 200. And then TikTok, there's 200 more. And then YouTube, there's like, it just keeps snowballing. And if you get that one that goes viral, it's just like
That's
what's
it.
possible.
Yeah. I mean, and even think, it took me a long time to understand this, but putting that many people in a room and then it changes everything. Like take 200 likes and then put 200 people in this room if they could even fit. And you're like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's the comparison and the numbness to a number. And it's funny, like I was in Chicago this weekend for an event and I had a few girls come up to me and they're like, you're like exactly the same person and like all this, like you're literally having a full conversation with me. I'm like, well, yeah, what did you want me to do? Like, you know, like you're a supporter of me. I want to do that. But I expressed to them how important and why I do that is because not only because obviously they've gotten me to where I am now and I can't be here without supporters, but that is what makes what I do real. You can look at numbers, you can look at views, you can look at comments, likes, DMs, like everything. None of that, unfortunately, being this many years into it, doesn't do anything for me. It's so short if it does, and it's just not enough anymore. And that sounds kind of bad, but it's the truth. And so when I'm in person, I have these conversations, I'm like, oh, like that's a like, right? Like that's a comment, that's a subscriber. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And it's such a lonely, it can be a very lonely job. And so being in those environments and being when I have these busy months, I'm like, yeah, this is a lot of my body and I'm stressed to the brim, but this is why you do it. And this is what's going to fuel, you for months before the next big thing. And I kind of had that moment again this weekend. I was like, oh yeah, like, okay, like I'm inspired. Like, let me go home again. Yeah.
I love that. Why bodybuilding? You've had like some success in it and have, done the shows and prep, like, going from soccer to a trainer, like why were you like, I would just want to get shredded and step on stage?
Yeah, so my biggest influence on that is Dan, my boyfriend, and also who I run, Authenfit with. He was a competitor when I met him, and he was always training himself and was just so disciplined. It was like scary almost. I was like, I've never seen someone so disciplined in my entire life. Where I was like, how do you function? Like, I mean, he's working a flooring job and has to be at the gym at 3 a.m. to do cardio, to then go to work, to then be back in the gym, get home from work, take a nap, be back at the gym at, 8 p.m. to do another workout. I'm like, are you okay? Like, what's wrong with you? And so watching him do all that, it made that thing in my head where I said earlier how I don't want to compete. I was like, that's scary. That's terrifying. You're so strict on your life. It limits you in certain aspects. And so I made that decision to where I'll support you, but don't ask me to get on stage. And then he did all my programming. He did everything. I mean, my first 8 months when I stepped away from soccer and stepped into the gym, I had an insane transformation from being my heaviest to having shredded 6-pack abs just by following whatever Dan gave me. Like I never questioned it. I was like, yep, sure. You want me to just chew on leaves? Like I'll do that, like genuinely, because I looked at him and that was the first person I've ever met and seen who had this discipline and created this body for himself. And it was super inspiring to me. So I was willing to do whatever it took to also develop that for myself, which also increases business, right? It all flows into one. So it made sense. And so watching him developed that. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, wow, like one, my social media is starting to grow on Instagram. And two, I feel like I've built a good enough muscle mass to see like, what do I actually look like? What does that look like, underneath on a stage? Like I'm intrigued by that. And so then we ended up doing a bodybuilding prep together. I don't recommend that. But, you know, we learned a
Pissed
lot.
off at each other all the
Correct. Who's in the kitchen at what time? Like,
Yeah.
dear Lord, like, did you eat your chicken or his chicken? Like, you know, that's the end of the world. But that is what really kind of changed a lot for us in business, but also in social, you know, growing through so much. None of that was easy in any way, shape, or form. We still talk about it to this day of like, what were we doing? Like, that was so much to manage. And of course, a lot of people saw just the positive sides and not the negatives all the time of what was going on behind the scenes. But that is what truly drove me. I think I had that fitness bug in me because I started, you know, to get in the gym right after college. But until I met him, I was like, oh, there's a totally different world here. This isn't just like you see Arnold, you know, and that's like, whoa. Like, no, this is like drastically different. Obviously, bodybuilding is even, you know, tripled 4x now versus, you know, in 2018. But it's something that I don't regret. I think it's taught me so much in my life. It's brought me so many amazing things and people, and connections and business. But that is where it all stemmed from. So blame Dan for that.
Yeah. That's incredible. I have so much respect because I maybe in the future, but like I've always said, like, I just can't do it. Like, I see people go through the process and just like eating such little food. I'm just like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I've always asked people, and I've heard people on like social media ask like, hey, what's it like in prep going towards a show? And everybody kind of says the same thing, like, it's tough and you got to stay disciplined, you can't miss a day. I want to ask you, like, what about after? And you talked about the content of like reversing everything, but 2021, you get on the stage, you win. Next day, you know, you celebrate, whatever. What does that next week look like where your identity's attached to, I'm going to prep and win, to now like, what the hell do I do?
Yeah. So before I super dive into that, truly every highest point in my life of where my life changed was also one of the lowest points in how I was mentally feeling, which is so crazy. But I've heard a ton of successful people say the exact same. They're at the best day, right, that we think is, and they're feeling the worst. And so when I won that, I was like, wow, like, this is crazy, right? But then the next day I was like, oh man, like, no one's, you know, obviously I had a few days where I was shooting for Alpha and like it was unreal. But like once I got home, it was like, oh, no one's asking me how many days out I am. Nobody is like, hey, you look great. You know, no one's saying those things anymore. And it's the post-show blues. Like, it's so real. And so I had a few days of coming down from eating whatever I wanted. But I had that horrible experience I had previously with binge eating for so long that I, you know, vowed to myself to never get back into that position ever. And so I committed to a reverse. I mean, I stayed super lean for almost 8 months, I think. And that's what was very prime for me, shooting content for all these companies, and it worked well. But those first, you know, few weeks and months was so weird because, you know, cool, I'm working with these companies, cool, I'm receiving free clothes and free supplements and whatever, but no one, after you put down the camera and you're done typing or replying to the comment, that's it. There's no one else around. You have this peak of this show and this celebration after, but everyone goes back to their normal lives and their jobs, and you're now like, oh, okay, so what do I document now? Okay, I'm documenting a reverse. This is way harder than even prepping for a show because I can technically eat whatever I want, but I want to stay this. It's just this like constant confusion in your brain, and that those dopamine spikes are very different. And I think that's when I started to get addicted to this idea of like making viral content, and I have to have all these likes and these views and this and that. And that is what started fueling me in a very toxic way. Business great, but mentally not okay. And so I think that's where I started to transition into all of those feelings and things that I still am working, you know, through today of understanding that. But I feel like that's kind of where it's at. But I mean, you can see somebody smiling with a trophy, but you have no clue what's actually going on in their head. And are they happy? Like, are they not? Is it just like this 2-second thing? Like, it's so real. Like, it's social media is, oh gosh, it could be so fake sometimes. That's why I try and say everything online.
Yeah. Did you feel pressure in that time of like, I need to stay in this physique? Because like, you just won. Like, it's probably the best your physique has ever looked.
Ever.
And you get all the pictures and videos. Were you thinking, I have to stay this way for social media, or if someone sees me, they need to see the abs and everything?
Yeah, because it correlated with all business. And so to live the lifestyle I wanted to live, I mean, over that next year or two, I made the most money I've ever made and never seen in my life. I was just like, whoa, like this is crazy. And it created this toxic idea of I have to look like this. And it was really bad for me for a long time because I kept going through this staying lean to gaining weight because I felt lost. And then, oh, I just got to lose weight. And I did that for probably 3 years. And I'm still going through that. I don't think that'll ever really go away. I think I'll just try to find some balance in it because that idea of what my best look is forever on the internet and forever in my camera roll, right? Like, and I'm always just like, oh, that's crazy, you know, those days. But it's something that it'll always be a struggle. And I don't know. I don't know where like anything in that line could have, I guess, been better or fixed, but I still have that struggle to this day of I have to hold a certain physique. And I have to look a certain way to be a coach or to be, you know, a model, quote unquote, for companies. And I think there's a toxic side to it. There's also a positive side to it, but it's the confusing part of being in that middle in making my worth be based off of what my body looks like. And that, I think, is the biggest thing that almost all of us struggle with, whether you're in a position like, you know, I am or not. It's just maybe a little bit more pressure, but we all struggle with that value of, oh, well, she's skinnier. Oh, you know, she has abs, or, oh, like, and we just value ourselves off that. And unfortunately, social media and everything we watch kind of creates that, and it keeps, you know, making it worse. But at the end of the day, it's just a journey with yourself. It is what you consume, what you let affect you. But I mean, still to this day, it's something I am working through every day.
Yeah, I love the transparency. And you said you deal with it today. So you're done competing in bodybuilding, correct? Okay. So that page is closed, or that chapter is closed in your book. Now it's, what do I do? You started running recently, lifting weights. Is there something you want to target in the future? Are you confused? Like, what's going on in your fitness regimen?
Yeah, super confused.
Yeah.
Very unsure of what that next journey is. I thought it was just like documenting business and then going into lifestyle, but it doesn't. That can resonate with my current audience, but how do I continue to grow an audience, right? How do I continue to bring, I guess, new people in a way, because that's how business works. You have to keep growing, right? And it's not like this is just for fun. No, this is what pays bills. So I've had a total of, like, I'm super transparent, but I've had a total of 2 like massive kind of breakdowns over the past 2 months of just like, what is that? And what does that look like? And going through the value of me thinking that I have to look a certain way, thinking that I have to, you know, my content has to be like this, like back to bodybuilding, like going into this mindset of like, do I compete again? Like, which is not somewhere I thought I would even get to again, to think and have those thoughts. But I mean, I've been trying to work through it. My last breakdown was literally, I think, before I left for LA, like last week. But what came out of that was I need to document a journey. And right now, sure, you can say I'm in a journey of figuring it all out, but I'm not documenting it in a way that can benefit people, I don't think. I'm sure I'm showing some things, but I'm not fully open like I used to be and putting everything on the internet, which is good and bad. And so I'm trying to develop what that next step is for me. And I think that next step is, in the healthiest way possible, finding a physique that I am happy with, documenting that whole thing, getting more strict and real with myself in regards to calories and macros. I told myself I would never track again, but truly, I think for the longest time, I kind of almost used that. I say that because I use it as an excuse of, well, I've done that in the past, or that's toxic, which to a degree it can be. I've been through both phases, but I think I've said that so long, put it off so long, that it's not doing me any good when I can actually lock in and have real data on what is going to push me forward, and every week having a check-in, every week having a am I progressing? Am I staying in the same region? Am I going down? And, you know, having someone like Dan coach me again in a way that is not for a stage, but how can I run faster, longer? Do I want to do a half marathon, right? Do I want to just lift and run at the best way possible, but feeling the healthiest? You know, I'm getting older. Like, I want to have children, right? Like, am I even healthy, right? I get blood work done every 6 months, but there's always usually something. Yeah. So how can I maintain that in the best way possible, but document it so that I could help other people versus being stuck in this identity of, you know, Kaylofit, right? That is a bodybuilder and cuts for this many weeks and then gets on stage and then gets off and reverses and then goes through that again. How do I document my life that in a different way and I'm okay with what I'm posting versus thinking I still have to live up to Shawty over here? Like, no, I'm a different girl now, right? Like, I think that's where my struggle and my crisis, like, in my mind is coming from, is because I keep identifying as this person. You're supposed to change, you're supposed to evolve. I understand that, but I don't think I was letting myself do that. So I like need to have breakdowns in order to have breakthroughs. And so after like those 2 breakdowns, I might have one more in me, you know, I don't know, who knows? After all this travel and, you know, turning another year older, I think that'll bring it. But that is what has opened up my mind to, okay, this is what can be next. How do you want to do that? What do you want that story to look like? Because you are in control. And you can't control who fucks with it. You can't control who likes it, engages with it, who doesn't. But if you can control the fact that you like what you're putting out and you're documenting this whole new journey that's helping you evolve, that may help someone else evolve, you're going to be fine. Yeah. And the companies hopefully will resonate with it. And if they don't, all right, back to the drawing board. But that's all I can do. And so just giving myself grace and being gentle on myself, because we're our biggest critic. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to focus on and evolve through and develop. I'm not, you know, 23 anymore and a young kid running around that I could just do anything. No, I got to build that foundation. Like, I got to really stand on business because life's moving and it's not stopping, and that's terrifying. But it's also a good challenge that I think we try to push off when we should just run, you know, full force at it.
Yeah, it's a good mindset around it. And one thing about you is you're not just reliant on the brand deals you have and being signed to this company, because you have your own business now. So last year you started Shawties, and this is a clothing company. I want to talk about like what started this. Yeah. Did you just find a gap in the market? Were you always passionate about starting your own business? What was that like?
Yeah, as I continued year by year, I was always like, and I was always told by big time people, you know, like Christian Guzman, right? Max Tuning, you need to have something of your own. What is that? Because at the end of the day, you're going to outgrow these brands, or these brands are going to not want to be affiliated with you anymore. And that's business. At the end of the day, that's business, right? We can't take that personal. And so I've had that in the back of my mind for so long of what is that for me? And I was always trying to force it. Like, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that. Like, trying to find what that was. And one day I was like in my closet in Sugar Land, Texas, you know, trying to get ready for the day. And I ended up putting on like a pair of like male boxers and to just throw like jeans over because it's comfy. And I was like, wait, I was like, why don't I create a boxer but for women? And I was like sitting there thinking about that, and I was like, I think that's it. I immediately picked up my phone and I called, his name's Daniel. There's a lot of Dans in my life. There's a lot. And I called Daniel and I was like, hey, like, I know what my thing is. I know what's next for me. And immediately we had a meeting about something else, which was a collab with one of his brands. And we just like trumped all that and had a meeting about this whole concept of a women's boxers. And we sat down, we kind of game planned certain things. And he's like, well, what are you going to name it? I was like, I don't know. I was kind of thinking like Shawties. Like, that's what I call my audience, what I call my community. Like, that kind of sounds really good, right? So good. Like, you're grabbing your Calvins, right? Like, that's such a known word. And I felt like Shawties was just like it fit so perfectly. And so we ran with that. And I had, one of my friends, Josh, develop me a logo and do everything for me. And the way the logo is, so the W in Shawties is actually an M upside down, because our tagline is men's basics turn into a woman's norm. So it's very there's this gap of women like me who wear boy clothes and we try and force them to work. Well, why can't we have our own type of clothes that have the vibe and aesthetic of, you know, maybe something that a guy would wear, but it fits a female body.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where I was like, bro, there's so much here that can be done. And when I did in-depth research and was doing trademarking and all of this, I was like, there's not many players in this game that are making a high quality product for women that is getting a very positive message across and letting people like me feel comfortable in the idea of wearing and dressing in a men's section. But now, hey, we can go online and buy something that we know is going to fit us properly, but still has that same aesthetic. And, you know, there's a few other people in the space that do it very well. But I mean, nowadays there's thousands and thousands of companies, but in my market, there's not many. And, you know, boxers are super in right now for women. So it kind of timed out well. And yeah, we just drove into it. So now it's more of just building out clothing that is super baggy but it fits right. It has that perfect streetwear vibe to it, but it's good quality. I mean, everything I'm making is custom, which is awesome for the customer. It's hard for the business. Yeah. I mean, it takes so long to make. It takes a lot of money up front. And it's the idea of trying to plan everything properly. But in reality, if you have a plan, that ain't how it works in the business world. So I've just been trying to attack it and learn as much as possible over the past year. And it's been going in a good direction. It's just learning and understanding that there's a lot of hard work that has to go into this. And I can't just sit back. I feel like a lot of things I was very blessed with socials that a lot of my content just did well. This is harder, you know? Yeah. Truth be told, this is very challenging. This takes a lot more work, a lot more energy. And I'm someone who sometimes I get really scared and I kind of push back. It doesn't do any good for me. And I'm realizing that, but that's kind of over the past, 3 or 4 months I've been in of like this waiting for product to come in, because it's all custom and it takes so long and trying to find manufacturers, this and that. And being like, okay, this is going to require so much more of you. And I don't think you totally got that when you signed up for it, but this is where you're at. And if you want to keep this going, you got to figure it out and you got to dedicate more time, and it's going to suck most days, but at the end of the day, it'll pay off. And so that's where I'm at, like mentally with it, because it has not been an easy year. Yeah. And I've been learning so much, and it's just a lot of money in, never any money out. And it just kind of keeps recycling. Like you see that bank account go up and you're like, whoa, like that's crazy. And then the next day an invoice comes in and you're like, whoa, that's crazy. It's like a mixed emotion. So yeah, that's kind of the journey with Shawties so far.
We need to get you and Sarah Blakely on like a panel.
For real.
That'd be so cool.
That would be dope.
You have a very similar story. Just like, I want to change like women's underwear. Basically.
Yeah, 100%.
So, that's awesome. Well, if that happens, let me moderate it.
Yeah, for real. No, I'm down. I'm down. Hey, if you can make the connection, then do it. We'll figure it out.
That's so cool. I love how people just have ideas and you just bring it to life. And the people in society that can do that are rewarded, because like everybody has ideas, but are you actually going to take action? And the people that have the ideas, they're going to steal, like they're just going to take it and run with it. Yeah. And they're going to be rewarded. For you, like, do you look out in advance 5-10 years? Are you thinking, I want an exit here, I want to partner with these people? Like, what do you see in the future?
Yeah, I don't even know, to be honest. There's some days where I'm like, I know it all, but most days I don't. Most days it's kind of blurry. And I think for right now, it's just we've started to tap more into an audience that's not my audience, because that's the hard part, right? If I'm building a business based off of my audience, well, there's a cap there, right? Kaylofit only reaches so far, but I need to get out of Kaylofit. I need to get into this whole other world that's out there, and we're starting to tap into that. And so I think my biggest goal is getting to a point where no one knows who I am. Like, I really want that within Shawties. I want, I don't know, maybe that's not a good idea because people are loving a brand story right now. That's what's selling. So maybe someday I'll step away from that. But right now I'll still have to be the face of the brand. But I want to go in the direction of, you see Shawties and you know Shawties for what it is. You don't know it for Kaylofit. That's my goal. Yeah. And that will allow me to live a happy and peaceful life, and grow a family and build a house and like have all these things that I want, without this stressor of I have to look this way and I have to maintain this and I have to do all of these posts, and I can't do that forever. And I've come to realize that. And so that is like my exit strategy, I guess, away from, you know, where Kaylofit is right now with working with a ton of other companies, which I love and I'm blessed for that, but I can't do that forever. It's a lot of pressure. It's stressful. It's very anxiety ridden for myself personally. And so that's kind of where I want it to go. It's funny because the 2 weeks before Kim K announced her whole collaboration with the WNBA, that was literally my direction.
Oh, really?
I was going to go in this whole direction of starting with like women's soccer. I'm one person away from, I believe we're one person away from everyone, right? There's totally a connection that I can get into. I sent, you know, the Houston Dash, the women's goalkeeper who now was playing for USA. I mean, I've sent her Shawties. She's worn them. She's posted them, right? That's one person in. So that's kind of another direction I would love to be, you know, on a women's soccer jersey, and it says Shawties, and we're a big sponsor, right? That costs millions of dollars, but that's kind of a cool goal, and I've written that down. I've texted it to multiple people to put it out into the world, so it's out there floating around. There's some wavelength somewhere that can be connected back to me, but that's kind of the direction I would like it to go, and to just give people like me, when I was growing up and wanted to wear nothing but boys' clothes and was made fun of for it, right? I want to give those people a place to shop and feel comfortable and not be made fun of, because what they're wearing actually fits their body properly and they're comfortable in it and they feel confident. Like, that was such a big missing piece for me in my childhood that caused a lot of trauma. So now that I can afford the clothes that I want to wear and that fit me properly, it's like, oh, wow, this feels great. How can I supply that for someone else?
Yeah. I think the soccer idea is phenomenal because their jerseys, or I guess they call them kits, but like they don't have their team name. It's the sponsor.
Exactly.
And I think women especially, because if it just says Shawties, someone might be watching TV, be like, oh, their team name is the Shawties. And then someone's like, no, it's actually this. And just all this conversation starter.
Yeah, it's easy branding.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I said, it costs a lot of money. I've already done research into what, like, different teams obviously cost more money, but they're building out a bunch of new women's teams, and there's a whole new league coming out. So like, I'm aware of what's there and the opportunities, and what numbers can look like, because in order to achieve certain things, we need to be very specific. And so I've read those numbers and looked at those numbers of what that can cost. So the ideas are flowing and it's out there. It's just a matter of time and developing in that direction and getting those certain connections and boom, being in that same room. It doesn't have to be with Houston. That could be with anywhere. But yeah, that's kind of where it's at. But I mean, we have our performance shorts, and the reason I made our performance shorts that are different from our boxers is because I grew up wearing Nike Pros. They suck, and they still suck. Like they I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, once you're that, I guess, grown and you're in the industry, you can kind of just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to sell, right? So cool Nike, but they roll up. They don't fit a woman properly. They're so uncomfortable, but you're expected to perform at your best in it. And then you're putting professional athletes in it and you're paying them millions of dollars. To me, that doesn't make sense. I think men's Nike Pros are more comfortable than women's. That make sense, right? And so that's why I created our performance line. And I wish I had them when I was playing soccer. Like, I wish. They don't roll up. They're long enough. They're so comfortable. Like, they don't squeeze your body to look a certain way. They fit on you. And so I think that would be so cool to not only be, affiliated and be on a jersey, but like, those girls are wearing performance Shawties underneath their shorts. And like, I know that. Yeah. I don't care if anyone else knows, but if I know that, like, that's crazy to me. And so I also want to be putting this out there. But next year, I went to Millikan University in Chicago, outside of Chicago, and their main color is blue. And our first color was kyanite blue. So I'm trying to get involved in like an alumni way and like kind of be a sponsor for a weekend and get them all performance shorts. I just need to know ahead of time so I can produce everything. But that's kind of something that I want to do as well to get started, and a way to give back to athletes who maybe don't have the best gear, or maybe it's a smaller school or a JUCO. Maybe they don't have the biggest sponsor. Like, how can I be involved in that, and in a free way that helps give a athlete something that is going to work better for them and they feel best in and confident in. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's still free promo for us. So that's kind of a direction that I want to tap into too, which will, again, tie all my worlds together with soccer, fitness, and clothing.
And the school.
Yeah.
You need to find those schools that are sponsored by like Reebok, and the athletes are like pissed, like, why can't we get Nike?
Right. And I'm like, I got something better for you, you know, but again, it's all down to money, sponsorship, et cetera.
Sure.
So
something I want to ask on is, when people are building something, I think there's two buckets. Some people are told, like, make a product or maybe even content that you would enjoy. Like, find something you would like. I think this is what you did with the boxers. Like, this is what I would wear, and I'm going to sell it and find my market. There's also another conversation where it's like, find a gap in the market where this is a need, this is what people desire. Maybe like the performance shorts from Nike are not cutting it. Find something better, and then you have a market already established. Do you like prefer either of those buckets, or do you mesh them together?
I feel like it's very different for a lot of people. For me personally, I have to have a true passion in it. I've learned about myself that money comes and goes, and money really doesn't actually bring true happiness. It brings you freedom that can bring you happiness, but if you have money and you're not around the right people, it doesn't mean anything, right? Yeah. So that idea of I need to love what I'm doing is far more outweighs everything else. I think that, can I get to a point where there's enough money to build side businesses that maybe I'm not super passionate about, but I know I can dump money into and it'll have a return? Yeah, that's smart from a business side. But as of right now, where I'm at and dedicating my time and my mental energy to, I have to love it. I have to resonate with it, and it has to come from like deep down in me. No side is right or wrong. I think it's just about that. Does that person have to be emotionally involved, or can they just be like, yo, this looks like it would make me a lot of money, let's do it? Like, there's just two different people, and I think that someday I'll be in both buckets. But right now I'm in that, like, I need to love what I'm doing bucket.
Yeah, that's good. You have a lot going on right now, and something that people just see on social media is like, she's showing up, she's traveling, like, it seems like it's just all laid out, and like you can exist, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of hard work has to go into it. Even when you make it to X amount of followers or this brand deal, like, it has to continue, and you're going to build a business, all these different things. Something you started posting very frequently recently is like, I'm chasing greatness. I'm determined. What are you doing on like the mindset aspects, whether it's your whole life or recent, that ties everything together and allows you to show up the way that you do?
Honestly, the greatness aspect, that really kind of stemmed from I was like, I'm listening to this book. It has to do with like quantum physics and wavelengths and all these things and believing certain things. And I think it's a book that was placed on me at the right time. And listening sometimes can be so much easier than reading because we're just so busy, but I'm constantly listening to it in the back of my head. And I had this understanding that I don't think I was putting the right things out into the world from my own personal mindset, which was keeping me in this negative loop. And no one was aware of it because they can't be, because it's myself and it's in my own head. So I'm still showing up, I'm still doing the actions, but I'm not putting these thoughts out of what I want next. Instead, I'm just like, okay, show up and do this today. Well, that's cool, but I'm gonna just stay in that loop and I can't go further than that. Yeah. And no one else, unfortunately, no one else can care, right? Like, it's my life. I have to choose what I want to do with it. And so this book has been teaching me, I think it's like breaking the habit of being yourself or something, I think it's called. And it taught me to put these things out into the world. And so the idea of showing up and chasing greatness every day, what does that mean? Like, that means I have to be on my A game. I need to be productive. I need to be doing my workouts that I need to be doing. I need to be taking in some sort of knowledge each day. How can I show up better for everyone in my life? How can I be more positive? How can I, like, if someone's saying hi to me, like, how can I not just say hi back, but build value on that 2 seconds? What is that? Is that just me smiling more? Is that just me being goofy? Because I know when people do that to me in my life, I'm like, whoa, like, my whole day just changed. Like, when I get coffee in the morning and someone's like, dude, like, I love your car, or you're just so positive, you're always so happy, or they're joking with me about something, I leave that coffee shop and I'm like, damn, like, I'm gonna have a great day. Yeah. You know, like, that was a complete stranger who I just had an interaction with that changed my whole morning, and they don't even realize it. So how can I do that for other people? Because I know that it'll come back to me. And so all these things have just been kind of adding up, that has been altering my mindset in a good and positive way into what can be next for my life, because I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to chase it. And I'm going to tell other people that they can do it too, right? You know, when people put up polls on their Instagram of like, you know, checking in or did you achieve greatness today, something I've been doing lately. And if someone can take the time to click that, that's really small button in the back of their head that was just checked off. Mm-hmm. That can create so many habits, whether they actually understand it or not. And I mean, I love when people have polls or questions. I'm always just like, yes, just like I want to be involved because I know that it helps me on the end of holding myself accountable. And truthfully, a lot of the times if I'm posting something and I'm like really passionate about it, or I'm like ripping into someone, it's me ripping into myself. That's what all of my social media is. Anytime I'm coming onto my socials or I'm putting something in a group chat or whatever, it's because that is what I need to hear in the moment. And so I'm going to say it to myself and to my community. I'm going to put it out there because once it's out there, well, I'm going to have to show up. Like, you know, it's like a bodybuilding prep. You put that out there, like you're going to show up and you're going to document it. Otherwise, you're going to have people like, what are you doing? Where have you been? Right? Like, that's why I do that. And it's so funny because everyone's like, man, you've helped me so much and all this. And I'm like, I want you to know that I actually do all of this. Like, yes, there's a part that I do for other people, of course. But all that passion is because I need to be that person for myself. Yeah. And so, yeah, if the next time you see me like just going off on my story or something, it's probably because something pissed me off and I need to be better, or I'm lacking that day and I need to show up and I need to wake up better. That's what it's all actually stemming from, is from my own negative thoughts.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Isn't that wild?
That was a great riff right there.
Yeah.
All right, my final 3 questions for you. Mm-hmm. First off, how do you define success?
I think I used to be very confused on what success was, because we were taught that success equals a big house, a family, a white picket fence, and you could pay bills, go on a vacation once a year. That's what I was taught. After, you know, achieving what I've achieved, I very quickly learned that that is not the case. Success looks different for every single person, you know, but when I bought my first dream car, I literally sat in it and the next day was like, damn, like that's it. It does not give real value to your life. It's an object. And so I've learned that true success to me is being able to have an impact on other people's lives in a positive way, and to be surrounded by happy and healthy individuals that I can, you know, either be a part of that or they're a part of that for me. Like, that is something that fuels me. If I lost everything tomorrow, but I could still be around friends and family that genuinely care, then I'll take that. Like, I'll take it any day. If I had to choose between it, I would say, take everything. I want this. But it took me gaining all of this success and money to realize that. I don't think I ever would have realized that until I went through it.
Love that. What is something you believe in that most people disagree with?
Oh my God, I don't know.
Get the hot takes.
Oh man. Okay, maybe, I don't know. Maybe this is it. Maybe it's not. I feel like actually some people relate to this, and this may not make any sense, but for me, this is so random. I crave the idea of going to get coffee in the morning, not necessarily drinking the coffee.
Okay.
That sounds so crazy. I know there's other girls that probably totally are like, yes, I relate to it. But a lot of the times I find myself just going to the shop to enjoy the idea of having a conversation with a stranger. And then I'll like get home and I'm like, damn, like I didn't even like want the coffee. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, that's so crazy that I'm going out and spending that money every single day just to have that genuine, you know, interaction. And when I actually sat back and thought about it, I was like, I think that's what it actually is. I don't know if I love coffee. I think I love the idea of going to the coffee shop every morning. Yeah. So I guess that's like, I don't know, is that a hot take? I don't know.
Maybe you just gotta spend $5 a day to make your day.
Maybe. I guess I just gotta make $5 minimum. I'll be good.
All right, last question for you. For someone listening to this that they want to achieve success, they don't know how to get there, they don't know what path to go on, what advice would you leave them with?
At the end of the day, you have to be yourself. I think it's so easy for us to want to be someone else or to compare. And they're not kidding when they say comparison is the thief of joy. Like, it's so true. And I keep learning it every single day more and more until it's like, oh yeah, like that means something, right? Like mentors are saying that for a reason. So if every single day you can get up and you can be happy with yourself and who you are and take all the judgment and push it out, you can be happy, which can lead to success. I think we live too much of our lives worrying about what other people think, but at the end of the day, we don't even know those people. Like, why does it matter? No matter what you do, I guess this is my biggest thing. No matter what you do, someone's gonna either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
You'll never ever have like just one way. It's always gonna be both ways. So if that is the truth, why not just be yourself? If you're gonna get hate and positivity, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Show up every day, be yourself. And you know, one of my biggest sayings, I literally have a tattooed on my arm, is, you know, control the controllable. Like let the rest go. Stress can kill you. Trust me. Control what you can and let the rest flow.
Amen.
Yep.
Kayla, it's been a pleasure. I'm so proud of everything you've done. I'm excited
you.
to see everything that's to come. So thank you for joining us and dropping all this wisdom.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully I'll be back soon. I don't know.